how's the Point North project coming along? You guys,
Uh, Coming
just
along great. I've been fortunate enough to know Eric and the gang for a couple of years now, and we met when I was playing with the Danny Jones Band, which is another three-piece instrumental band, and I ended up really liking their music. I like their bass player, but their bass player got called to go to Death Angel, which is where I stepped in to sub for the past just about 2 years. And eventually, we had a moment where we would have to choose. You know, would he stay with Death Angel? Would I stay with Points North? And I said yes.
now is this going to see any touring involved soon with Points North?
Like now that we've signed to Magna Carta, the first album was already done before I joined the band. So I won't be on the first album, but I will be on the tours. We need a tour to support the album.
How far is the tour going to go, you think?
It's too early to say. We're trying to plan East Coast and West Coast. It would be nice to pick a really good area I've seen for touring. And then the East Coast is where both Eric and I are from, so we should be able to find some old connections over there to play around.
So you and Eric Barnett's been friends for a long time, or how you guys meet?
We didn't know each other on the East Coast. We met because I was with the Danny Jones Band, another instrumental trio, and we would be on the same bill together. So that's how we met. And when he needed a bass player, I was pretty much, in his radar.
Now this album title, have you participated any way in this album at all?
No, only in the support in getting fans and having shows where people see what kind of music it is. Both Damien and I are very proficient bass players, and meaning, not rubbing my own back, but we're not just the meat and potatoes guys, especially in a power trio like this. The bass has more of a prominent role and a lot of times a melodic role. So yeah, my role as a musician in this band has been helping them get off the ground, helping them get noticed and recognized and play out live. It was not in the recording of the album.
No, no. Of course, with your background as a great musician, it shouldn't have been too hard to get into the loop to play these songs.
Um, I'll say yes and no. Being that I pride myself on learning lots of music quickly, but having said that, Points North was some of the most difficult I've had to learn. I had to learn most of their material. I had a couple weeks to do it, and which is a long time, but it's intense material. And a lot of it has to be internalized. It's not very improvisational. I try to make it as improvisational as possible, but there's some pretty wrought time signatures and specific parts that have to be played correctly. So yeah, I'm good, but they're really good. So it took me a little bit to learn the songs.
So like that, do you have to rehearse all this stuff all the time to keep up and to remember the parts, would you say?
Not really. I've found as we all get older, rehearsals have become they're harder to do. People's time is more important as we get older, and whereas when you're 15, 16, you can rehearse every day with a band. When you're an adult and people have kids and jobs and such, it's more difficult to get together. So the practice is actually in the homework as opposed to in rehearsal, so that by the time we do get to a rehearsal, we can go through the songs, work on little parts that might be unexpected, they need brushing up, and then do a gig. Sometimes we'll do gigs with no rehearsals, even with this music. I have noticed that I have to go over a few parts with this band as opposed to any other band, where I usually don't have to go over anything before a show.
Now, Uriah, also with everything that you're doing, what are you currently endorsing for music instruments and amps?
Um, well, shit, I don't know if you can see behind me.
Oh yeah, I see them. Nice.
There's my living room. So the bass amps are pretty much the furniture around here, and then when I have a gig, I just grab whatever I need. The two cabinets with the gray cloth, those are my old Edens, and I had used Edens for many years, and I love them. I used them on tour with Whitesnake, which is why they had that Marshall grill cloth on them to match the Marshalls. But then I moved to TC Electronics, and TC has been with me for about 2 years, and they've been nothing but supportive. That's my bass amp company. They make beautiful, high-powered, small, lightweight amps, and if I need a bigger rig, you can see I have two 410s there as well.
And like this, what are you playing for strings on your basses?
For in Points North, I do choose a four string. Maybe by our second or third album, I might use my five. I do love playing my five, and I'm someone who shows up to gigs with one of each, one four string, which is this one here, my main Fender Jazz, and then a five string Lakeland.
I got one question for you, Uriah. Let's say when you look at dead strings on a bass versus fresh sounding strings, like brand new out of the package, what's your take on that when you look at people playing sometimes dull strings, and how important is it in your eyes?
Um, I'd say being a freelancer, there's a different bass for every job. There's a different sound for every job. And dead strings can work on lots of gigs. Some people never change their flat wound strings and want this thuddy old tone. For a band like Points North or Rush or even Marcus Miller Funk, you want newer strings. And I use and endorse DR strings. And DRs I've found are the most consistent and when I put them on, and they'll last the longest, and still have a bright tone. Points North has become the focus for me right now because of all the traction and attention they're getting from Magna Carta and the associated bands and fans of instrumental music. I've chosen to make Points North a priority. Uh, Next to that, I still have my own freelance career as a bass player. I'm still getting called doing 4 gigs a week with different bands. It'll be from gospel to R&B, funk, fusion, to even some jazz gigs. Points North is not every weekend working band unless we're going to go on tour. Yet I do need to work every week to pay the rent. So yeah, my freelance career is also big to me. That's my day job, I should say. Then Points North is in there, and then the Uriah Duffy solo project, which has been an idea of mine for many, many years, and I have many resources to accomplish it. I just haven't yet. So those would be the big three for me.
Well, Uriah, I appreciate you taking the time with me, and hope everything goes great with Points North. It's an
Oh,
excellent sounding album, and I'm sure when you're on that stage, it's gonna rock.
thank you very much.